You're listening to part 2 of a Dear Applicants podcast episode. Check out last week's episode to listen to part 1 of this interview. And we were earlier talking about, well, the fact that you did 2 bachelor degrees and 2 master's degrees in those 4 years at Penn. We know that's fairly atypical, but we see a lot of students ask the question, right? Can I finish my bachelor's degree early?
Right.
How do I do it?
Right.
And the answer is just a mathematical one, right? It's how many modules you can take and how many credits you can balance in one particular semester, right?
Yes. Okay, so I cannot speak for all the other schools.
Right.
I can tell you more about Penn, and then I can tell you about stories of people I know, real life examples of people who have done
No, I think people
crazy and
would
interesting
really
things.
appreciate that, yeah.
So for Penn specifically,
Crazier than 8 modules in a semester.
I know someone who took 9, but it's not a competition.
I think you
it's not
did.
a competition.
I think you did touch on this
somebody
last
did
time,
take 9, but not just
Was
that.
this the person we were talking about?
Yeah, it was the same
okay.
person. Yeah, but not just the number of classes. I think the way they combine things together. I think the short answer is yes. You can graduate early. Not all schools will allow you to do that. So I know Harvard and Yale famously don't allow their students, or rather frown upon it, that for people to graduate early. Penn is actually pretty accepting. So I know a lot of people who graduate in 3 years. A lot of Singaporeans, but also a lot of non-Singaporeans who graduate in 3 years instead of 4. And if they're scholars, they find they use the last year to do a master's.
Yeah.
And if they're not, then they would start their work early. Now, if you want to do multiple degrees in 4 years, you do need some planning, because you need to. It's not just like how many classes can you take. It's the sequence in which you take some classes, right? So some classes might have prerequisites. So you need to clear the prerequisites first before you can take those classes.
An intro to microeconomics.
Yeah, exactly. Before you take the advanced version, right? Or math is the easiest. You probably will take some math classes as prerequisites before you're allowed to. And there are obviously ways around it. So for some classes, what I did was I spoke to the professor directly. I told him what I was trying to do. I explained to him my past, what I've done in the past, and then asked for permission to at least enroll his class without a prerequisite.
So
some professors
the
are nicer
human
than
element
others.
of that stuff.
Yes.
So speak to them rather than just rely on the system.
In fact, I would say that the US academic system is very supportive on that. So if you speak to the professors, generally they're understanding. There are obviously professors who are not, but generally they're quite understanding, they're quite supportive if you can show them that you're clear what your plan is and what you want to do.
Okay. And that whole thing of like talking to your professors and getting to know them so you can help yourself as well is something that's so important. And I think we tend to recommend that our students do that at the high school level as well, especially when it comes to recommendation letters.
Yes,
right?
indeed.
So talk to your teachers, let them know if there's anything they've said that interested you, that sparked curiosity or led to what you want to study at university. Tell them what your intentions are, what clubs you're doing, what you want to study at uni, so that your recommendation letters are so much more, I'd say, directed,
exactly,
right? Or concise. And the whole thing is just talk to people, get to know people, which is something that, of course, you're very, very good at. That's something that I've become aware of during my time at IvyPrep, knowing you, is that you have an incredibly wide network. Right? And many people as part of that network now are working for IvyPrep in some capacity or the other, right?
They are.
You've pretty much put together most of our strategist network. Where did that come from? You being friendly?
I would say that I would say generally I like talking to people. I like hearing their life stories. I like learning from people. But also that it's something that I have to kind of get myself out of my comfort zone too. So while I do like talking to people, understanding their life story, what they've done, you still need to make the effort to get to know people.
It takes time to develop.
It does
that
take
confidence,
time.
right?
But I think I've been very fortunate. A lot of my friends and acquaintances and colleagues have been very kind. When I reached out and say, hey, would you like to help in this endeavor? A lot of them are very kindly come on board. A lot of them are taking a lot more students than I have now. They've become really passionate about helping students as well. So that's something that I think we have about, on last count, probably closer to 100 strategists now.
I say 80, but it's probably closer to 100.
If you round it up, it's
I stopped counting after we hit it. Yeah.
So I say the first maybe like 30, 40 was me, but after that they brought friends in.
Yeah, but still, when I say network, you are at the center of that network, and then it's sort of spreading out now, right?
But I think it's an important skill that I've learned more as I go into my working career. Just kind of being able to talk to people, striking a conversation, about really anything.
And like the UPenn kids, I understand, right? You know them, you're part of the Singapore Society of there, but and people from Johns Hopkins and Harvard, where do these guys come from? Is it all back here?
Some I met after coming back to Singapore, and some I met when I was traveling around the US as well. I think at the end of the day, I don't go into the relationship or the friendship or the acquaintanceship or anything like that, trying to get something out of it. right? That's never the goal.
So it's more
right?
interested in them rather than
Yeah,
what they can
I
give.
mean, I just want to make more friends, right?
Yeah.
And then like if an opportunity arise, then you can share with them, and some of them are interested, some of them are not. And I think the biggest thing I'll say is just don't be afraid to be rejected. I always tell my students that the default answer is no anyway.
Yeah.
So if you don't try, it's going to be no already. If you try, there might be a
Might be the bonus,
0.001% chance you'll get in, right? So that's better than zero, right? So always try, and don't be afraid of being rejected, because you'll be rejected a lot.
And you were saying that this is something you had to work on,
Mhm.
right? So there was a time when you were apprehensive about networking, going up to strangers, introducing yourself. And of course, to be quite honest, you're someone who's pretty accomplished, right? You have a lot under your belt, you have the degrees backing you. For someone who's networking with, perhaps not as robust a background, or someone who's too young to have that sort of background,
Right.
what words of wisdom would you have for them?
Don't be afraid to try.
Okay.
Just, I mean, if you go up to
So
the
it
person
goes back
and you
to
say
putting
hi,
yourself out there.
yeah, the worst the person would do is ignore you, right? But the person's going to ignore you anyway if you don't talk to him or her, right?
I'm asking mostly for myself.
Nah, you're good, John T. You're good.
Networking, genuinely, I think
yeah.
networking is a skill that a lot of people, myself included, envy, because it's tough, right? Putting yourself out there and being ready to take that sort of rejection is not easy.
It is.
But networking is also the thing that gets you, it's going to get you what you want, right?
It gets easier though, if it's any consolation, because if you do it time and time again, then you get the practice of either being able to deal with rejection better, or how to start the conversation better as well. So I think you just got to start somewhere and just keep going at it. I think a lot of times I'll say that if you think you're nervous talking to someone else, that person is probably nervous talking to you as well. So you just find a way to break the ice and then just go on.
Is that, and if I'm prying, just let me know, is that how you got your current job, or any of your other jobs as well?
Actually, this is a good question on failure and rejection.
Okay.
I'll come to the current job in a
Sure.
bit, but you reminded me of something I wanted to say, which is that actually when I was coming out of the military, I applied to almost 100 different jobs. And frankly,
like LinkedIn Easy Apply, is it?
Not just LinkedIn Easy Apply, like just even referrals, going through the whole process. And I think maybe like 95% of those either end up in, like, they either don't reply you or they reject you, right? So really, it's a minority of job applications that you really get, right? And I think at the end of the day, you just have to grit your teeth and do it. I think people don't see this part of applying for jobs, especially in today's market, and think that it might be easier.
Or you assume someone's going to be better than you.
Right.
So you don't apply.
Yeah. The truth is that you get like rejected most of the time. You just have to be able to deal with it. This job in particular, it is through my network, yes. Because the industry
Success.
is not very, no, the industry is not very big. So I think we kind of know who's who in the industry, so we can, it's part of the network.
I know someone who's a cybersecurity recruiter. There have been times where out for dinner and they pointed that, hey, that's the person who hires for that company. That's the person who hires for that company.
Yeah. The cyber industry is very small in Singapore, so people tend to know each other very well. Yeah.
Before we continue, I would like to take a quick break to remind you to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps us improve and to reach a wider audience to provide further insight into this arduous journey. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to email us at our email linked in the description below. We'd love to hear from you. So you've told us, coming back to you and your network as part of being part of IvyPrep, you've told us why you got involved with admissions and IvyPrep in the first place. But why is it that there's so many members or so many people out there in Singapore, not just members of your network, but also, people that we might just know in passing, who are interested in working with students on things like admissions, on things like profile building? Where does that interest come from?
I think there are two main reasons, if you ask me. I think one is our passion to help.
Okay.
I think these are really successful professionals in their own field, right? So they're really taking time out of their busy schedule to help students. So really, there must be the passion to help, right? Or to develop the next generation. I think a lot of people share that passion. And two, that IvyPrep gives them the right platform to do that. So there are obviously a lot of other platforms, not just in admissions consulting, but to help the next generation. There are a lot of platforms that you can join. And I think we try and give them that. So we give them a lot of autonomy. I think, the feedback I've gotten is that they do like kind of the curriculum we have.
You've gotten a lot of autonomy, right?
I did have a lot of autonomy.
You've gone ahead and designed your
Fortunately,
own
I have,
programs,
and I'm able to create different curriculum that I think is important for the next generation. And I think that having that combining with the platform and the fact that they get to experience helping people, I think those two make it such that we sometimes we don't even recruit. People come to us and say they want to join
really
our
interesting
network, right?
people come
really
to us,
interesting people, exactly, yeah. So I think that's something that we should continue doing, and
Well, I mean, that's how we found our
mission.
current CEO as well, right? He
Exactly,
reached out to
yeah,
us, yeah.
exactly. So that's our mission, and then we need to continue on that, because the day we stop that, I think people would find other platforms to do.
And on the role of admissions consultants, mentors in the first place, given the emerging role of AI and I don't know what word you want to use to describe it, whether it just sort of looms over everybody now, right?
It does, yeah.
And there's a lot of talk about certain roles and responsibilities being made redundant by AI. Do you see that changing the importance of someone who's gone through the experience themselves helping a student, or do you think AI one day is just going to take over and do it anyways?
I must confess I'm not the most learned person on AI, so I can't speak with authority on it. But I would say that I mean, there are a few things. I think I've used AI to help me in my work a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of mundane tasks would likely be replaced by AI, or AI would enable us to do a lot of mundane tasks a lot faster. I don't think at this point it is capable of replacing human work altogether. I mean, even take admissions consulting, for example. I mean, I use...
Yeah, I was speaking specifically about
no problem.
Right?
I use ChatGPT.
Sorry, I wasn't asking you
in general,
general question. No.
So I can't speak, because I definitely can't speak to that.
No.
But I think in admissions consulting, generally, I use ChatGPT as well, right? Give me ideas, give me prompts, just to get a variety of kind of what works. And then, but I think that after that, there still needs to be a way to write it in your own voice, right? Because you're not ChatGPT, right? That's ChatGPT's voice talking, right? I think at the end of the day, you need to take that and you need to own it, right? You can't just take it wholesale. I don't think that's going to do you any wonders, because the next person could use the same tool to help you, right? So I would say AI, ChatGPT, that sort of direction, that's just a tool in your toolbox, right? Just like IvyPrep is a tool in a student's toolbox. Your parents, your teachers, your peers, they're all tools in your toolbox. Not that you should see them as a tool, but you should leverage that to help you write the best application that you can have.
So you sort of need everything to come together as well.
That's how I've seen it, and that's how I've seen it used as well. So I think rather than be afraid of ChatGPT, I embrace it quite fully in a lot of my admissions consulting work.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And I'm sure ChatGPT is going to see a massive uptick in users over the next month, because we're getting closer and closer to the regular decision deadline.
Yeah.
Right. And as we get closer to that, we're shooting this on the 28th of February, it is. And it's
November.
28th of February. 28th of November. 28th of Feb. Anyway, 28th of November. And this video is going to come out on the 15th of December, right?
Yeah.
So by the time it comes out, it's still going to be 2 weeks between or like a week to 2 weeks between when people may see this episode and when they're going to apply. For all the last minute appliers and all the people who just haven't had the time to apply, or maybe like myself got to it a little bit too late, what advice do you have for them if they're rushing an essay in 1 or 2 weeks?
Oh, this hits home close to me, because I rushed a few essays a few days before, so not even 15th December. Like we're talking like 27th December.
You always talk to someone who got into UPenn, Harvard, Yale. Like, hey, I rushed my essays.
True though. I did.
Somebody once told me they wrote their personal statement to LSE when they were in a club. I was like,
oh, that's a whole new level.
Like, on their phone. Yeah. I was like, okay. But anyway, sorry.
I have a funny story on this. So not the club story, but one of my essays, I will not say which university, was it was open prompt. It's FineX, right? And
we know what university this is.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll not disclose the university here. If you can guess it in the comments, you can drop a comment and let us know if you think that's the university.
FineX.
Yeah. And that was the essay that year. I was running a high fever last day, 31st December. I was in no mood to write a new essay. I took all my other essays, and then my first line, I added a first line, let X be the title of the essay. And then at the end, I added the line, found X, full stop. So I just copied the entire essay, let X be found X, and then submitted it, because I really couldn't. I was really in no mood to write.
And you got in?
State. Yeah, I did. I did. But it's looking back, I probably should have done it earlier. But if you were like me, and you are procrastinating all to the end, you have 2 weeks now as when this video comes out. I think One, take a deep breath. You have 2 weeks. It's not the end of the world. Two, I think you really need to prioritize where you spend your most effort in, right? So your essays probably be where you spend your most effort in compared to, say, honors activities and some of the other things. And third thing is definitely leverage all the tools you have in your toolbox, right? Parents, peers,
people to give you that
people
sort
can
of
give
advice,
you some advice
Feedback.
or feedback on your essay. And 2 weeks, it's short, but it's not so short that you can't do anything with it. I'd say there's definitely time, but first of all, take a deep breath and then get down to it. Yeah. And if it comes to it, you got to prioritize. If you're applying to 8 universities and you have nothing done, then we need to scratch that, apply to 1 or 2 universities, and put more effort into it. It's probably my advice here.
Okay, got it. So take a deep breath, guys, before you attempt your last minute essays. But thank you so much for your time today.
No
again.
problem. It's good to be back.
I can't wait for episode round 3 next year when you're back from Australia. But thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you sharing everything with us. And thank you guys for your time as well. I'll catch you next time for our next episode of Dear Applicants. That's all for today's episode of Dear Applicants. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you found the content valuable and insightful. If you'd like to learn more about our guests or the topics we discussed, be sure to check out our show notes for links and further resources.